What's going on, golf addicts? The Tour Junkies are back for the 2021 Century Tournament of Champions from Kapalua, the Plantation Course. We are in Hawaii. You get prime time golf this week, baby. Prime time. I'm DB, David Barnett, host of the Tour Junkies podcast with my boy Pat Perry, who's this fine, handsome gentleman wearing the Boom t-shirt. That is Pat. He's there. Hey, Pat, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Doing good down in here in the wine cellar. Ready for 2021. Goodbye, 2020. Not sorry to see you go. And yeah, the Century Tournament of Champions this week, getting us started for that PGA Tour season.
What they call chucking the deuces to 2020 is what the kids say. Last time we were here on TJ After Dark, you gave us a winner at, I believe, 28 or something like that to 1, Mr. Victor Hovland. If you're not familiar with TJ After Dark, this is what we do. We record our own podcast on the Tour Junkies channel. You can check that out on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're there as well. Apple, Spotify, whatever. We're there. Tour Junkies. We cover every event every week on the PGA Tour Worldwide Golf Betting and DFS circuit. So we record our own show and we get all lubed up, which I'm here. I'm lubed up here. We get all lubed up. We have a good time. And then we come on this show and we talk about a couple names that we mentioned on our own show that we disagreed with. We didn't really have a chance to duke it out. We're going to duke it out here. And then we're going to talk about what DK Sportsbook has to offer in terms of outrights, maybe some top 10s, top 20s, whatever's available on a Monday night as we record this thing. So that's what we do every Monday night. It's a good time. We've been doing it a couple years now with TJ After Dark, and we deliver some winners. So heads up, take notes, pay attention, enjoy it. We'll be here for about 20 minutes. Let's make this thing happen. Pat, before we get into it, tell us what we need to know about the Plantation Course at Kapalua.
Yes, great course, resort style course here in Hawaii. It is a par 73. A little unusual there. We don't see that a whole lot on tour. It is playing almost 7,600 yards, but you got to realize there's some elevation here on this course. So it doesn't really necessarily play. I mean, that sounds daunting, but it's not quite as daunting as it may sound. You got 42 players in the field this week. There is no cut. So these are, mostly champions from last year. There were some rule changes and they added guys that made it to East Lake in the top 30. But look, this is a small field, no cut event. Pay attention to that. You got Bermuda grass tee to green here. The greens themselves don't really roll all that fast, and they are huge. The fairways are huge. This is a big course, just like the yardage.
Yeah.
But look, it's an easy course. And as long as we don't see a ton of wind, which I think we're going to get, maybe the first day and some on Sunday, they will score here a lot. Now, last year we saw 14 under wind. It was pretty bad conditions the entire time. But most years we get to Jordan Spieth won here at 30 under, 4 or 5 years ago. That's a lot of birdies. That's a lot of birdies. That's a lot of scoring. So you got to score on this course. You got to score on the par 5s, which are mostly reachable in 2. I think that's important. And look, you got to putt well on these Bermuda greens. But, as far as stats, strokes gained off the tee, approach, those are 2 of my biggest stats that I love this week. And I like looking at any of the scoring stats. As I mentioned, this will be a birdie fest. So there you go, DB. That's a quick rundown.
Yeah, I think winning score is going to be a little better than last year since we're looking at maybe 2 kind of blustery days this year that we had last year. All 4 days were kind of rough. So I think your winning score is going to be somewhere in that 20, 21 under, maybe. But you got to score, 42 guys, no cut event. Everybody's going to get 4 rounds. Ton of DraftKings points being scored this week if you're looking at DFS. If you're playing DFS, you're playing GPPs, you're playing tournaments, make sure you have a unique lineup. You don't be a dummy and duplicate your lineup because you play all the chalk or, you spend all your money, your salary cap money. Maybe leave a little bit of money on the table. Ownership is a big deal. So ownership projections, wherever you go to get those ownership projections, that's going to be important this week. You're going to need to find some low-owned leverage plays. I believe last year, actually, Pat, the perfect lineup had at least 2 guys in that low 6K and actually 3 guys in the low 6K, like low 7K range. And you had a couple studs up there. Now, the cream does tend to rise to the top here at Kapalua. You've got winners like Justin Thomas, Patrick Reed, Dustin Johnson, Xander Schauffele. Definitely have all that. But I think distance, like you mentioned, approach play, iron play, wedge play in particular. Got a lot of short par 4s. You're going to see a lot of wedges in here. And then making putts on these Bermuda greens is going to be key. So, let's get into it, buddy. A couple names that we disagreed with on the podcast. I'll start. My fade in the $9,000 range and above on DraftKings was none other than the thick boy. The thick boy. He's thick. His name is Bryson DeChambeau. That sucker thick. He's eating protein shakes like it's popcorn. You know what I mean? But anyway, he's a poor wedge player. He's a poor wedge player. It just is what it is. If you look at what he's done, yes, he's gained a lot of distance. Yes, he can have an 8-iron where somebody else has a 5-iron. But when it comes down to wedge play, which is what really everybody's going to be dealing with this week, he's a poor wedge player. He's also not great in the wind. If you look at his last 10 events in the wind, he is last 10 events, period. He's -1 in strokes gained approach in his last 10 events. And in 2 tries here, he has lost 3.2 strokes tee to green. So, yes, he's going to bomb it. Yes, he's going to have a ton of wedges into here, but so is everybody else. And the thing is, he's just not as good with his wedges as most players in this field. So I don't think it's worth playing Bryson in DFS. Change my mind.
What did you think about that wedge/approach game in the Masters, in the U.S. Open?
You want to talk about the Masters?
We going to talk about the U.S. Open, where he was literally probably number 1 in the field on that approach game. And
he didn't have a ton of wedges, if we're honest. I mean, he's honestly better with a 7-iron in his hand, an 8-iron in his hand, when everybody else is hitting 6s and 5s than he is when everybody's hitting a pitching wedge and he's hitting a gap wedge or a lob wedge. Like,
either way, the par 5s on this course are going to be so easy for him. So you're already talking, I'm not going to say he's going to birdie them every single day. And so that's 12 under, but you could put it close to that number for him as far as, because he's at least going to, I think, birdie 2 to 3 of these par 5s almost on a daily basis. And Bryson is just, look, you can say what you want about the wedge play. He's got a huge advantage over anybody in this field, especially on a course where he doesn't even have to worry about anything off the tee. He could just bomb it away.
Nobody has to worry about anything off the tee. It's a wide the fairways are like 50 yards wide, so literally.
He's going to have even more of an advantage this week. So I love some Bryson. And I'm wondering if his ownership's going to be down a little bit because he disappointed so many people at the Masters. And you got DJ up there who's playing fantastic. He's going to be high. And we know the ownership's going to be condensed because it's a 40-man field. So if I could get a low-owned Bryson DeChambeau in my tournaments, I like that.
I like that a lot. All right, comment below.
And he putts well on Bermuda greens.
If you're watching the video, first of all, you need to subscribe to the DraftKings YouTube channel if you've not already. But if you're watching, let us know. Are you playing Bryson? Are you convinced by my argument, or are you not convinced? Are you going to play Bryson or not? There you go. Pat, what you got?
Well, I don't know if I'm as high as you are on Xander Schauffele this week. He's coming off the COVID. Okay. I know he's played great here. He could have won here 2 years in a row. I just don't.
By the way, this is planned. This is a planned T-shirt. We're in Hawaii.
Oh, I figured that. Yeah.
We're getting
although that's not quite colorful. It's very flowery. It's not that colorful. But True. Yeah, I mean, look, Xander's going to check some boxes. Now, you know what? He's not like incredibly great compared to the field in approach play. 21st in the field, so middle of the pack. He's okay on Bermuda grass, but I don't know. I just feel like Xander could disappoint, especially after 2 years in a row where he won in 2019 and then he was in the playoff last year. he could disappoint this week.
Yeah, I mean, he should have won the playoff. I mean, if you look over the last 5 years, in only 3 attempts, he's gained over 22 strokes tee to green on this golf course, and that is good for third total in the last 5 years, only behind DJ and Justin Thomas. He's at $10,000, which I think is cheap enough to obviously play in tournaments if you're playing GPPs, but also if you want to play cash games, I think you start your lineups with Xander Schauffele. Yes, won the thing in 2019. Yes, lost in the playoff last year, should have won it, had a chance to win it, choked it away. If we're being honest, but he actually, I mean, he checks a ton of boxes. I mean, distance, he's plenty long. The iron play is actually, if you look over the last 24 rounds, he's 15th in strokes gained approach, so better than middle of the pack. He gains strokes putting on Bermuda. He scores on par fives. I think it's a perfect place for Xander, and he's demonstrated why it's a perfect place for him.
Coming off the COVID though doesn't bother you at all.
So let me say this. It is, you know what? I actually hope that maybe it throws some people off of him a little bit in terms of ownership. But here's what I'll say. We record this on a Monday night. He's likely to be a press conference that comes out on the PGA Tour come Tuesday or Wednesday. Let's see what he says. Let's see what he says. I'm not going to really stress about, okay, did he have the Rona and he didn't practice for the last couple of weeks? I don't know that a lot of these guys practice. A lot of the big names, I don't know that a lot of them practice over the previous 2 weeks before. I mean, do you think DJ with his recording of his like TikTok viral videos with Paulina, do you think he's been hitting golf balls?
Yeah,
he ain't practicing. Yeah, he ain't practicing. So like, I don't really care as long as he feels good now. If Xander feels good now, then I'm fine. If we get to the presser and he's like, yeah, I don't know, I'm still kind of recovering. I don't know, I feel kind of bleh. Then maybe there's an issue. But this is such a weird week because we haven't seen a lot of these guys play competitive golf in a while. And we talked to a lot of tour pros. We've interviewed a lot of tour pros, and a lot of them, when they're off, they don't play. Like they just don't play. They may practice a little bit, but they don't play. So, but I do think of the top names, I think Xander's one of those guys that's hungry. So, maybe the old Rona throws a little, some folks off the scent, and he's a little lower on than usual. That's my hope. But other than that, he checks every single box. Let's talk about DraftKings Sportsbook though, Pat. Let's talk about some betting odds. I will go ahead and say that the shortest number that I would bet. Now, this is a 42-man field event. The cream, like we mentioned, tends to rise to the top. I am not one to bet super short numbers when it comes to golf. Usually anything shorter than like 20-1, I usually don't bet. But this week, it's a little different scenario. I think I would start it with Xander at 10-1 for all the reasons I mentioned. And maybe that number gets a little longer depending on the Rona vibe that's going around. But 10-1, I think, is a decent number for Xander in this field. So I'll start there. Then I would work down the board to Webb Simpson at 18-1. Now, Webb, not a bomber, definitely. Doesn't check the box there in distance, that's for sure. But pretty solid record here. And last time he played here, finished 8th in 2019. And listen, Webb's as good as anybody on around the greens, approach play. If it gets windy, which is looking like it will definitely be windy on Thursday and potentially pretty windy on Sunday, Webb can really do his thing there. If it's not windy, Webb can still come out and do it. So 18-1, I think, is a good number for Webb. And then finally, shorter numbers. I like Daniel Berger. He's at 28-1 on DK Sportsbook right now. He loves Bermuda putting surfaces. He putts great on Bermuda. Love that. Gain strokes off the tee, 6th in the field in strokes gained off the tee, top 10 in distance, top 10 in strokes gained par 5. Berger's back for the first time since 2018 at this event, where he finished 11th, finished 14th the year before that. I think he's another guy who's going to be hungry here. Okay. This is a little bit about like, how bad do you want it in the short field guaranteed money grab first event of the year. He's also 96th in the FedEx Cup point standings right now, which there's plenty of time for him to make up for that. But he's got to be feeling like, okay, I'm a little behind the 8 ball to start the year. It'd be great to have a solid week. And I think Daniel Berger gives you that. and 28-1. He also gives you a ton of win equity. He just won the Charles Schwab, the very first event back from quarantine, when, hey, it was one of those weeks where nobody knew, how much guys were practicing, how much guys were ready. And here comes Daniel Berger at 70-1 at the Charles Schwab back in June, and he won. So there you go. That's kind of the short side of the board for me.
All right. Well, I had Berger as well, so I like that. I'm with you there. My shortest odds guy, you're not going to be surprised. I like Bryson DeChambeau. He's at 11.5-1. What a weird number, by the way. Just give us 12, DraftKings. Just give us 12-1. Why do you got to do 11.5?
Come on, DraftKings.
Come on.
12-1. Hey, 12-1, I'll bet it.
Yeah,
actually, I will say 12-1 is actually a good number for Bryson. Like, I don't love that number, but the win equity, it's pretty good.
So anyway, I'm gonna go with some Bryson. I like him there. I like Patrick Reed at 18-1. I think that's a good number. We saw him here in the playoff last year. I think that is this is a good course fit for him. So at 18-1, I like Patrick Reed. I like Victor Hovland, also a guy that won a bet for us. We just mentioned him. He's at 20-1. I think this is another good week for him. He's great off the tee, approach, everything. His stats are fitting this course. It's his first time playing here, but I don't care. So at 20-1, I like some Victor Hovland. That's about it from the shorter range. If we're going more mid-range, I'll start with Scotty Scheffler at 35-1. He's a guy that I think is going to have a huge year this year on tour. I love him this week. He's a guy that's great off the tee, great approach game. We saw him, have some great flashes of, some good tournaments last year. He had that little COVID thing back in the fall and whatever else. And I know his form's been a little bit spotty lately, but I still like Scheffler, and I like him at that number at 35-1. Also loving some Joaquin Niemann.
Oh, yeah.
45-1. I think
we have agreement.
A fantastic number for him. I will get all the Niemann. And I bet you got some more to talk about with Niemann. But as far as the mid-range here, love Scheffler, love Niemann.
Yeah, I'm all over Niemann at that number. Finished 5th here last year. One of the top players in terms of driving distance. Also flights the ball very low off the tee, so wind becomes a factor. Niemann becomes even better. Aggressive young player, motivated, love Niemann at that number. Yeah, I think that number is going to get shorter before it's all said and done by the time they tee it off. More mid-range, I'll go Kisner at 50-1. Listen, Kiz is one of the shorter players in the field in terms of driving distance, but he is one of the best wedge players in the field for sure. He's great putting on Bermuda green surfaces. And he's aggressive. Like, if I'm going to take a shorter hitting player, then I want a player who's a great wedge player and who's aggressive and who can score birdies in bunches and get red hot. And that is Kisner. He gives you win equity at 50-1 in a 42-man field event. I think that's a very strong for Kiz. He's got, he's got a T14 here last year, 17th in 2018 and a 9th in 2016. That was his best finish. But I do think Kiz is an interesting option at that 50-1 number. Right there around that number at 66-1. And this is honestly probably the better value between Kiz and this player. So if you're going to take one, I think Cam Champ at 66-1 is the much better value. This is Champ's 3rd year in a row playing this tournament, where he's finished 11th and 14th last year. Champ is the longest hitter on the PGA Tour. He's longer than Bryson. I mean, he's freaking long. He's long. So checks that box for sure. Checks the box with iron play. We saw him play well at the end of the 2020 year. Competed at the PGA, had a chance to win, but kind of crapped the bet on Sunday. He's competed in big field events. He's won 2 times on the PGA Tour, and he gives you win equity at 66-1. It's basically like, can Cam Champ hit a couple of wedges better than he normally does? And can he make a few 10-footers better than he normally does? That's what it's going to come down to. But tee to green, you're hard-pressed to find a better fit than Cam Champ. So I'll go him at 66-1. Now, Pat, any long shot bombs for you? And I will also ask you to round out any top 10 or top 20 bets you want to throw out there.
All right, so I will give you my bomb, and that is Mr. Sebastian Munoz at
Like it.
125 to 1. I love him this week. His first time here last year, he finished T17. I believe he was in the perfect DK DFS lineup. He's a guy that's a scorer. He's aggressive. He's plenty long off the tee. He's good in par five scoring. I think this is like one of like it's just like a price that's off. Like he could easily be up there in that, even in the if I saw him right near Cam Champ at 75 to 1 or
Yeah,
something,
I was gonna say 80. I was gonna say 80 to
yeah,
1.
yeah.
It would still be enticing. He's
So
five and
you're
a
gonna,
half to 1 for a top 10.
yeah,
And out of
which I like.
42, he's five and a half to 1.
Yeah,
There were let's see, there were five, and he's not even a first timer. So there were five first timers that finished top 13 last year. So he's getting a second crack at it. He's had the best fall that he's ever had coming into this event. I like that number. And five and a half to
yeah.
1 top 10, I like.
So he's kind of the longest odds guy that I like. But if we're talking like well, I'll just go top 20. You get Munoz going back to him. You get him at plus 150, so 1.5 to 1 to finish in the top 20. I mean, you can put a big number on that, and I feel like all he's got to do is beat 22 guys and get in there. I like that as well. And then Hudson Swafford is at 3 to 1 to finish in the top 20. I think that's a good number for him. I mean, this is a guy who's coming off of a win not very long ago. He's a scorer as well. I mean, the tournament he won, I think he was 20 under, something like that. So, and it was, I believe, windier conditions, kind of a coastal
Coastal
style
course.
course.
Yeah.
So I think that Swafford at 3 to 1 to finish top 20 is a good number. And then you can even they got him at top 30. They got, top 30 numbers this week on DraftKings.
Damn.
Okay. Top 30. You got to beat 12 guys. Hudson Swafford to beat 12 guys is plus 110.
Oh,
Okay.
damn, girl. Damn. I like
I
that.
mean, just to beat 12 people.
That makes me that kind of makes me happy in the middle right there. I mean, dang, like he can beat, Wawrinski and Streb and Gay and Thompson and Landry,
Todd,
Nah, I don't
Michael
like nah.
Thompson.
That's a pretty that's okay. Okay.
So there you go. That's all I got.
All right, I'm gonna hit you real quick with two names. Lonto Griffin, I think, is one name that you need to know. He's at 125 to 1. Lonto's plenty long enough. Played here last year for the first time. Finished 13th last year. Not too shabby. Winner on the PGA Tour. I think good. That's a good number at 125 to 1 in a 42-man field event. And then finally, Martin Laird. Okay. He's an older guy, but he just won in October. He won the Shriners Hospitals for Children Open. He is a known ball striker, long enough, not super long, but not short, long enough. Great iron player, great ball striker, hits it well in the wind. If you look at his performance over his career in windy conditions, very good wind player, can be aggressive. He is 275 to 1 in a 42-man field event. Okay. I mean, put a quarter of a unit, put a tenth of a unit on Martin Laird to win this thing at 275 to 1. In 2012, he finished runner-up at the Century Tournament of Champions. Now, gas was probably like $1 a gallon in 2012, but he finished runner-up, when that happened. He's got chops. He's a wily veteran, and he's also 11 to 1 to finish top 10. I probably like that number better. So top 10, 11 to 1. It could happen. Again, you had 5 first-timers finish top 13 last year. He's almost like a first-timer because he hasn't seen this course in like almost a decade. But I still think I think Laird has a chance. So there you go. DK Sportsbook plays. Be sure and subscribe to the channel. Comment and tell us if you're playing Bryson or not. I'd be interested to see what that total count comes up to. Give it a thumbs up. Go check out the Tour Junkies page as well. And as always, DK Sportsbook is your one-stop shop for your sportsbook stuff. And play some great contests on DraftKings. We're excited about it. Excited for the PGA Tour to get kicking. We'll be here every week debating, having some arguments, having some drinks, and talking some sportsbook stuff. So cheers to you. Thanks for watching. May your screens be green. See ya.